think of spoof flicks, certain films come to mind. Airplanes, Hot Shots, Spaceballs, Young Frankenstein, Blazing Saddles, and basically anything by Mel Brooks. These films are not only funny, but incredibly clever in their satire and parody of the films they spoof.
The shit's gonna hit the fan.
Unfortunately, when you also think of spoof flicks, you think of these.
Welcome! My name is Harry Potter.
Aren't you a little old to still be a student here?
Nonsense. I am but 14, as are my two best friends, Ron and Hermione.
Greetings.
Yep. During the 2000s and early 2010s, a new breed of spoof films were put out, which many describe as the movie movies. You know what I'm talking about: Date Movie, Meet the Spartans, Disaster Movie, Vampires Suck, and my worst nightmare, Epic Movie. Most of these films are directed by the reviled duo Jason Friedberg and Aaron Seltzer. Many attribute Scary Movie as being what launched the duo, and while accurate to some degree, it's a bit misleading. The two had actually worked on spoof films since a Leslie Nielsen starring Spy Hard. And the two technically didn't write Scary Movie. Maybe. We'll get back to that later. Despite their Scary Movie writing credit potentially being unearned, the credit made the two much more known in Hollywood, leading to dozens of terrible Carmen Electra starring spoof films that followed. They're often described as the killers of spoof movies, and you can't really call that inaccurate. Personally, I grew up with a DVD copy of Epic Movie, and young me loved it for being mature and adult. I wish sometimes I can go back in time and strangle young me, cause that film is utter garbage, but now I have it almost entirely memorized in my brain and it refuses to leave. I can make a 10-hour rant video on why I dislike it, but you know what? We have enough cynical garbage on YouTube these days. There's hundreds of videos diving into their terrible movies, and I want to do something a bit different. So, why don't we instead take a dive into their terrible unmade movies? Yep, despite many lamenting how their films just never seem to die, there's a mountain full of lost scripts and media related to the duo's work. So, in this video, let's take a dive into the epic, disastrous, unmade works of Seltzer and Friedberg. And, in a surprising twist, how they almost redeemed themselves. To start with, we have to go back to the duo's earlier years. Both grew up as children of the late 70s, with fathers obsessed with movie comedies. They would come to watch and love Caddyshack, Airplane, The Simpsons, The Naked Gun films, and other films of the sort. The two would eventually meet at the University of Santa Barbara, and instantly clicked, becoming good friends, almost like brothers. Seltzer was an art history major, and Friedberg was a general history major, but the two found a common love of film and comedy. During their last year of college, they took an elective on Martin Scorsese flicks, and saw the film Goodfellas, which almost instantly made them want to become filmmakers. However, with the love of The Simpsons and the older spoof flicks, the two had an interesting idea. What if they made a spoof of the Goodfellas? I remember one day we said it could be funny if there was a spoof movie where...
I'm funny how? I mean funny like I'm a clown, I amuse you?
And then you cut to the guy and he's wearing full clown makeup. This would lead to the two writing their first script, a parody of Goodfellas. As with many of their early scripts, it was never made into a film and is considered lost. Despite the interest in filmmaking, the two started out as struggling artists, having to work odd jobs to pay for their tuition, making shirts, starting a food delivery service, and even making shoes, which was a long-standing tradition of the Seltzer family business. However, during all of this, the two would keep on writing their spoof scripts, specs in full, hoping one day they'd receive their big break. And that big break came through Jason's father, Rick. He had directed an assortment of TV commercials and music videos, including Van Halen's Hot for the Teacher, Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen's Brother for Sale, and Kenny G's Against Doctor's Orders. Rick saw a script the two had made for a film called Spy Hard, and just so happened to be shooting Bad Golf Made Easier, a series of golf instruction parody videos starring Leslie Nielsen. As the script was molded after the works of the Zucker brothers and Mel Brooks, Leslie loved it, and eventually agreed to star in the film. With Rick as the director, the film was a modest hit, and led to the duo getting confident enough to go to Hollywood and become full-time writers. After all, if Leslie Nielsen liked the writing, it had to be good, right? Well, they quickly learned that one minor hit meant jack shit. During the 1990s to 2000s, the two sold 40 scripts, of which almost none got made into real movies. Some were spoofs, some were originals, some were adaptations, but pretty much none of them were being produced. Very few of these scripts have ever resurfaced. However, we do know what a few of them are gonna be. I'd like to thank and shout out Matt Patches for his interview/article on Seltzer and Friedberg. It's one of the only interviews with the two, and a lot of my research was sourced from it, and it's a pretty darn good read. Columbia Pictures had bought a script from them entitled The Bridge. Planned as a vehicle for Jackie Chan, it was a departure from their prior work, as it wasn't a spoof film, but instead a martial arts action film. And it was apparently pretty good. Sadly, Chan's high price tag meant the film never materialized. They were then asked to do a rewrite of a script for a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, at the time known as Eye of the Storm. Producer Moshe Diamond... The producer hoped they could eject some of the great action from the Bridge script into the Van Damme flick. Their script was described as a hardcore cop movie, which quickly received the green light. However, it was then rewrote again by different writers who turned it into, as the duo described it, a chop sock sort of Van Damme movie. It was eventually released in 1996 as Maximum Risk. The duo also wrote a script which was sold to Disney that turned into Cars? Yeah, I don't know about that one. This may be referring to the early version of Pixar's Cars, the Yellow Car. However, that script was written by Jordan Klubian. I cannot pronounce names today. Maybe Jordan's script was a rewrite of theirs? Or maybe the duo's car film was a completely separate project? Yeah, I'm not sure. They also sold an adaptation of Christopher Buckley's Little Green Men. And around this time, the two also started working on a specific script. One which arguably would have completely changed the trajectory of their careers and their perception in the public light. But I'm gonna make you squirm a bit and wait to talk about that until later. All of these scripts or pitches have yet to resurface online. A shame, considering they likely would have highlighted some of their non-parody work strengths. But after these 40 failed scripts, the two pitched a film entitled Scream If You Know What I Did Last Summer, which eventually became Scary Movie. Except, maybe not? The story of their involvement with Scary Movie is confusing and includes many sources which contradict each other. According to the duo, it was a pitch they loved so much that even after it was rejected, they wrote it anyway. And apparently, Bob Weinstein found it so damn funny that he bought it in 1998 and was planning to get it made and released the next year, with the Wayans brothers eventually taking over the project afterwards. But, according to the Wayans brothers, in a decade-old podcast, they said that Seltzer and Friedberg actually stole the original pitch made by them, and that Seltzer and Friedberg's version was shelved. When the Wayans brothers sold their script to Dimension, entitled Last Summer I Screamed Because Halloween Fell on Friday the 13th, it was actually put into production, and then Seltzer and Friedberg claimed that the Wayans stole ideas from their script, which, if we believe the Wayans, was stolen from a pitch originally made by the Wayans.
We ended up having to share credit.
There was another team that did claimed that they did Scary Movie. And in fact, our
Writers.
team, Wayne's brothers.
They
did
wrote the
Scary
first
Movie.
draft, correct?
No, they did not.
They did
we
not.
did. And Miramax had bought their script to take it off the market. But what happened was, when they bought their script to take it off the market,
They shelved that.
they shelved it, and they tried to say that we took shit from their script, which is bullshit. So,
We'll get to that later.
here's how you know the difference, okay? The crew that said that said they wrote Scary Movie, but they never went on the fucking set with us.
They don't even know where we shot it.
I have no idea. Friedberg and Seltzer.
I gotta go to Narnia shit. I gotta go to Narnia shit. Sorry, guys.
Our flavor versus their flavor.
Right.
Does it look like we stole their shit? No.
Here's what happened. I had an old manager who used to work at my old, that Gold Miller, who, at the time, after Don't Be a Menace came out, he was like, "What are you working on?"
Jew.
And I said, "Well, I got this idea. I want to make
AIDS.
I want to make fun of. I want to make fun of Scream. I
Jew
want
with
to parody Scream like I did.
Jades.
Don't Be a Menace." And he's like, "Oh, that's a fucking excellent idea." He said, "What are you? Hurry up with that." I said, "Yeah, I am." This motherfucker, he leaves Gold Miller 3 months later.
Sells it.
He fucking took my idea
Yeah.
and gave it to those fucking dudes.
Yeah.
And they were writing my idea at the same time as I was writing
Right.
fucking Scary Movie.
So it's like a race against.
I'm racing
fever.
myself.
I
I don't understand
Right.
how,
Mind you,
how
when we
does
was
someone
doing
win
Scary
the,
Movie-
how does someone win the Writers Guild
I
arbitration?
don't know.
However, who's telling the truth may never be truly known. While some of you will just say the Wayans brothers are right and Seltzer and Friedberg are lying, which, well, I would understand, there actually is a 1998 article with Weinstein where he mentions how he wanted the film to come out the following year. Making it more confusing is Seltzer and Friedberg claim they had written some of the gags, including the bush covering the frame gag. So, who knows? My guess it was kind of a mix of both stories. Bob did want to produce the Seltzer script, then no one else was interested. So then the Wayans were brought on, possibly separately with a different script, and then they combined a few minor ideas from the former into the latter. Who knows, really? Sadly, we don't have the individual scripts from either writing duo, so we'll likely never really know what originated from what. And now, to another piece of lost media. Actually, I was wrong. There is a script written by Seltzer and Friedberg out there, and it does share some of the same scenes as the final movie. The bush gag is here, and some scenes are certainly similar. So, I don't know, maybe the Wayans did borrow stuff from their script, or it was a coincidence, or the bush gag was in the original pitch, which the alleged producer stole from the Wayans and gave to Seltzer and Friedberg. Again, who freaking knows at this point? The script has the name Scary Movie on it too, so it's possible that name was also carried over from the script. It's a mess. I don't know if we'll ever truly know what happened here. But, in any case, now in a post-Scary Movie world, Seltzer and Friedberg finally had a big hit flick which they had a credit on. Due to this credit, after the Wayans decided to drop out of directing and writing the third Scary Movie, the two were brought on board to write the third installment of the series. Bob and Harvey came back to us and said, "We want you to take over the franchise again." So, we wrote a draft. Titled Scary Movie 3, Episode 1, Lord of the Brooms, the film moved away from the horror theme of the series, instead parodying Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, and the Harry Potter franchise? Yeah, the fact that Scary Movie 3 was more of a fantasy spoof rather than a horror spoof led to the script eventually being canned. David Zucker was apparently going to shoot this script, but eventually decided to write his own. As always, this early script is yet to resurface, although the two would end up parodying Harry Potter later in Epic Movie, basically just being one stretched out long joke, which a very Harry Potter musical did much better in less than 10 seconds.
No, Ginny, you don't get it. None of you guys get it. I'm just a 12-year-old kid.
The other post-Scary Movie work which never got made included a Looney Tunes movie for Ivan Reitman, Happy Place, a Groundhog Day-esque comedy about a man who finds himself trapped in his mental safe zone, only to discover it's a living hell, a debauched mockumentary called The Bachelor Party, a Babe-like movie for the Weinsteins, and an adaptation of Sid and Marty Krofft's H.R. Pufnstuf. A project shepherded by Scott Alexander and Larry Kariuski. Speaking of which, it must be said that, apparently, the two are actually growing into pretty decent writers. And in order to explain further how, we must talk about their greatest unmade work, their Liberace biopic. Liberace, for those who don't know, was a wildly popular American pianist, singer, and actor. During the height of his popularity, he was the highest paid entertainer in the world. And his life was a rather interesting story. A story which the writing duo really wanted to tell. So, the two ended up writing a Liberace biopic. You may be asking, okay, but what's the catch? What's the terrible secret of the script? Is it another spoof that shits on the life of an amazing performer? Damn it! And well, there is no terrible catch behind the script. It wasn't even a spoof. Liberace was, well, a straight-laced biopic and a love letter to an entertainer who Seltzer and Friedberg greatly admired. And the craziest part? It wasn't bad. In fact, it was far from bad. In the Hollywood scene at the time, their Liberace script was highly praised, and countless studios and actors wanted to be a part of it. Written during the 90s, it attracted the attention of Peter Safran, the man who ended up becoming their steady producer. In the year 2000, producer Kerry Wood's Independent Pictures picked the film up. Set to direct was Philip Kaufman, director of the critically acclaimed The Right Stuff, with a writing team of Scott Alexander and Larry Kariuski, writers of Ed Wood and The People vs. Larry Flint, producing. Even more insane is that the script attracted the attention of many A-list stars, including Nicolas Cage, Johnny Depp, and even Robin Williams. While there was skepticism by the public, everyone involved with the production absolutely praised the hell out of the script. Larry Kariuski, who oversaw the writing of the script, said, "It's actually very good." Larry went further online, as when asked about the terrible writing output of Aaron and Jason's spoof flicks, he compared them to him and Scott. They basically performed their own writing redemption, and they felt this duo could have a writing redemption too. Aaron and Jason are trying to change like we did by following Problem Child with Ed Wood. It can happen. Look at your rave for Adam Sandler in that 9/11 picture. Friedberg and Seltzer even spent 2 years flying back and forth between Los Angeles and San Francisco, tinkering with the script under Kaufman's watch. Despite their despised parody output, it's likely that had their Liberace biopic been actually made, it would have been a huge game changer for the duo. Instead of being known as the duo that killed parody, the duo could have become highly praised drama writers who happen to have made a few spoof stinkers. And considering it was praised and overwatched by an Academy Award nominated director, it's likely it could have even led to a potential Oscar nomination. Which, yeah, the Oscars suck, but hey, that's a big thing in the industry. Imagine hearing that. Oscar winners Aaron Seltzer and Jason Friedberg. But it never got made. Why? Why was such a highly praised script shelved despite Academy Award nominated writers, directors, and actors attached to make it? Well, it can't be pinpointed to one exact reason. Their producer, Peter Safran's, own response was quite simple. It was just a very hard film to get done as a theatrical release. It was a tough one to get done as a theatrical picture. You needed to have enough money to really make it look great, and have that era in the glitz and glam of Vegas. The way any movie comes together, I guess. There are a million reasons. The budget just seemingly wasn't there, and they couldn't find out how to really bring it to life. So, unfortunately, the whole film was scrapped. There eventually would be a Liberace biopic made for HBO, 2013's Behind the Candelabra, directed by Steven Soderbergh, but it was completely unrelated to this project. And the most unfortunate turn of it all, the script has not been made available online. Considering how praised it was, it's honestly a shame. Considering they're known for their awful spoof movies, I desperately want to see how they would have tackled a drama film, especially considering the high praise it's got. Maybe one day it'll turn up on Script City or some obscure website. But for now, it remains a mystery. With that project scrapped, the two went back to do what they did best: bad spoof movies. Starting with Date Movie, instead of letting their pitches keep getting shelved, they decided to just direct the movies themselves. Pitching themselves as directors with an elaborate presentation of storyboards and visual gags, the company was eventually sold and let them direct their first feature. Date Movie was not received well, but it certainly had some effort put into it, especially compared to their later works. There's a few clever jokes in it, even if it isn't that great as a whole.
There's this huge space between us, and it keeps getting bigger and bigger.
And audiences seem to love it. Or at least they loved paying for it. So many more spoofs by them were made. This included Epic Movie, Disaster Movie, Vampires Sucks, Meet the Spartans, The Starving Games, yeah. Again, I unfortunately grew up with a copy of Epic Movie, and man, in hindsight, does that suck. But it's forever in my brain now. Obese Mystique, Willy Wonka torture scene, yep, that's all in there. It's not leaving my brain, yeah. While we're here, though, there's actually some obscure and, well, lost Epic Movie stuff I should probably bring up. This isn't necessarily lost, but in 2007, to promote Epic Movie, Fox hired the team behind Lonely Girl 15 to make a self-parody. Now, for those who don't know what Lonely Girl 15 is, join the club. Apparently, it was a very popular early internet web series, starring a teenage girl named Bree doing seemingly normal video blogs, which gradually got more story-focused over time. It apparently gained quite a following, though slowly went down in quality, with the final series being Austin McConnell's Lonely Girl 15 Outbreak, which he did a pretty interesting video on. It's not really well known nowadays, but at the time, it was quite popular, being one of the first internet/YouTube web series to gain a cult following and truly get traction. So, to promote the film, Fox hired the creators of it to make a parody of the series called Lonely Girl 362436. Fun fact: the numbers used are actually a reference to the 36-inch bust, 24-inch waist, and 36-inch hips that are considered the ideal dimensions for a porn star. And for big beautiful women, honestly. Featuring Carmen Electra as the titular Lonely Girl 362436, the jokes are pretty basic. Just about her feeling sad because she saw the Lonely Girl character Daniel, who she's apparently dating, get blown by another woman, but she's also innocent and her family's in like a religious cult, so she thinks he liked the woman's praying better. She then does seductive things in the second one to try and win Daniel back, I think. Then in the third vid, Daniel actually comes over after seeing the second vid, and he like expects to have intercourse with her. Then she just gives him a basket of sandwiches, and they actually do have intercourse. Why did I make this video? Carmen Electra is like the go-to attractive lady in these flicks for some reason. She appeared in just so many of these. She was also in Good Burger, which is my favorite performance of hers. To give credit where credit's due, these weren't written by Seltzer and Friedberg. These were actually made by the people who created Lonely Girl 15. They even got some of the actual Lonely Girl actors to cameo as their own characters. So, that's pretty cool. It's not that funny though. Also, there's like an interview on the Epic Movie DVD where like she's interviewed in this exact location, and I don't know why. I think my favorite part about this is that on the Lonely Girl 15 wiki, they state how it's not clear if she's a canon character because the creators hadn't confirmed if she was a canon character or not. I just love the fact that there was a time where people debated whether an Epic Movie spoof spin-off series starring Carmen Electra was canon to a semi-serious web series or not. Just delightful. There was additionally a video put out by Creature Effects Inc., the company that did the animatronics and puppets for Epic Movie. In this video, it's the Mr. Beaver Show, starring, you know, the classic iconic character from Epic Movie, with a different voice, tone, and animatronic, who doesn't appear in the movie. Like, it's a different animatronic in the movie, but like, this animatronic actually appears on the DVD cover for some reason, as he tries to teach the world about beavers. He then has a beaver cam, looks up some girls' skirts, gets kicked into the street, run over. That's the video. That's it. That's the entire thing. There's also a few extra things I noticed when doing research into this video. In the Harry Potter scene, like, every character is killed, except for Harry himself. Apparently they originally were gonna have Harry get killed because there's a TV spot where Peter puts his sword in and then it like stabs Harry in the background. I'm guessing they cut it out because even for this movie it looks so f***ing bad. There's also a few alternate takes of certain shots. In the final battle, when Peter gets the remote from Click and stops time, he also uses it to slow down a jogging girl, which he finds hot until like a fat guy runs by. And the film is discussed as pretty mild, but there's like an alternate take where he's like reviled and nearly puking. There's also an alternate take of one of the shots from the Mystique scene.
What do you like?
There was also a contest on Epic Movie's MySpace account, which actually was a thing at one point. If you dressed up as a character from Epic Movie, you'd be entered into a contest sweepstakes, possibly being able to win a MacBook Pro. You know, the thing that the white bitch uses in the movie because product placement, man.
The kids have escaped.
That's so funny. There's additionally screensavers, wallpapers, and ringtones, which I can't really access anymore and seem to be mostly lost. There was also a lost Epic Movie Flash game called Epic Mutant Babies, which seemed to be a dating sim of some kind, with characters from the film, and also Carmen Electra as Hermione, which is how she appears on the poster and DVD, despite her playing Mystique in the film, and Hermione looking like this in the film. I don't want to talk about Epic Movie anymore. Made the Spartans also had its own little viral Flash game apparently called Beat the Spartans, which is also lost. They also made a personalized promotion in the vein of Office Max's Elf Yourself and Burger King's Simpsonize Me called The Spartanizer. There was also a weird marketing campaign called Carmen Electra Has a Crush on You to promote Meet the Spartans. Essentially, there was like a viral video where Carmen gets sidetracked talking about a new love interest, and you could apparently personalize it to make it look like she has a crush on you and send the video URL to someone's phone. You'd also get a personalized call invitation saying to go see the new movie. My brain is melting. I never would have thought that these spoof movies had such a strong internet presence at one point. I mean, they have like viral marketing campaigns back then. It's kind of weird in hindsight. Somewhat cool, I guess, but yeah, they're not really remembered aside from me because I do way too much research into this stuff. But among their awful spoof films that actually did get made, there was actually a huge chunk of them which just never materialized. For example, y'all heard of The Office and Dwight? You know, this boy right here? Well, the duo had been setting up a new comedy at New Regency, who put out a lot of their spoof films, with Rainn Wilson as the star. Rainn Wilson was the guy who played Dwight on The Office, by the way. I don't know if I made that clear or not. Being a twist on A Christmas Carol, his next film was going to be a holiday flick with the classic Seltzer flavor. Days before production, however, New Regency pulled the plug due to budget concerns. While this sucked for the duo then just pitched Meet the Spartans, and that did actually get made, so yeah, don't feel too bad for them. Honestly, this was probably for the best that it got cancelled. I can only see Rainn's career getting hurt by this flick. The script for it hasn't leaked, so details on it remain quite vague. One of their arguably most well-known cancelled spoofs was the biggest movie of all time, 3D. This one was notable as it actually had an official announcement along with the poster. This film would mark the first spoof film to be shot in 3D. And yep, there was a whole announcement, which I guess I'll just read the entirety of.
In Scary Movie, we spoofed the teen horror genre. In Date Movie, we took on cliched romantic comedies. Epic Movie, we parodied bloated blockbusters. Meet the Spartans, we lampooned the ultra macho 300. And in Vampires Suck, we skewered the cultural phenomenon Twilight. But our new movie will dare spoof the biggest, boldest, and most successful movie ever made, James Cameron's Avatar. With a domestic box office of nearly $700 million and an overseas haul of over $2 billion, it was only a matter of time before this behemoth got a good ribbon on what could possibly be riper for satire. You got half-naked blue people plugging their hair into strange flying horses so they can read their thoughts. And nothing in this mega blockbuster is off limits from its overly simplified message of big corporations equals bad, tree-hugging environmentalism equals good, to the broadly drawn characters like the buffed-out Colonel who's in a perpetual roid rage, to the very colorful, glowing, and, come on, totally stony world of Pandora. And just like Avatar, our movie will be an eye-popping 3D, making it the very first spoof movie ever in this format. It's a perfect showcase for outrageous sock gags, physical comedy, and audacious stunts that will make for a hilarious film and uproaring audience experience.
So yeah, it seems like they had big plans for this next venture. The first 3D spoof seemed like it was going to happen. And then it didn't. I have no understanding of why the film was canned. There wasn't even an official cancellation announcement. It just never happened for some reason. It got as far as a poster and an official press release. I mean, it had to have been at least in the scripting phase, but no script has ever resurfaced. Man, can you imagine Seltzer and Friedberg riffing Avatar? They would have put Carbon Electra on Blue for a second time. Yeah, nothing was really lost with this film being cancelled. While we don't know exactly why it was cancelled, I have a pretty strong theory. The last film Seltzer and Friedberg made for 20th Century Fox and New Regency was Vampires Suck, which was released in 2010. Although Vampires Suck was kind of a hit, their prior film, Disastrous movie, was not a hit. Likely because of this, after Vampires Suck, the two of them no longer made films for New Regency. And it just so happens that this Avatar spoof was announced in 2011, about a year after Vampires Suck. It may have been possible if they expected a budget on par with their other films for this movie, and when they no longer had the funding from New Regency and 20th Century Fox, it just wasn't feasible. I mean, they went independent after Vampires Suck. And, yeah, the budget wasn't as high. So it's likely that once they realized that they had such a reduced budget for their films going forward, it just wouldn't be feasible to make the movie. And as the 2010s soldiered on, they kept making spoof movies. And now, due to releasing their pictures independently, and with a very reduced budget in most cases, they started releasing their works both in theaters and on demand simultaneously. Yeah, the reign of the two was certainly coming to its end. But they still kept pumping out movies for quite a few years.
We'll make love Navi style.
Okay, but just the tip.
Feels so good.
And it's even better in 3D.
Hey, wait a minute.
Their last release was the 2015 Superfast.
What are you driving? A car.
Although they did have plans for more. They announced a Taken parody in 2014 called Who the F Took My Daughter? And they additionally announced a Star Wars parody in early 2017 entitled Star Worlds. Episode XXXIVE equals MC squared. The Force Awakens The Last Jedi Who Went Rogue. Oh, that's a f***ing mouthful. Scheduled for shooting in late 2017. And then they just disappeared. The two literally have not been heard of since 2017. There have been no word on these projects, and we don't even know how far they went development-wise. What happened to these two spoof films is completely unknown. For 2014's Who the F Took My Daughter, we at least have a plot synopsis. It would have focused on Ryan Miller, described as a tough, no-nonsense, black leather jacket-wearing Liam Neeson type, whose daughter is, of course, kidnapped. Using his particular set of skills, Miller will hunt down the abductors and rescue the girl. It was even being sold in cans by Oliver Simon and Daniel Barr's K5 International. Again, we don't know how far it went to development. The situation with 2017's Star Worlds is even more confusing. It hadn't even been made yet, and yet somehow, Covert Media had already sold the spoof to multiple markets at the Berlin Film Festival, a week after launching their sales. It was acquired by a ton of different companies for quite a few different countries. Like, a lot of different countries. Even weirder, it was already stated to be in pre-production, targeting a fall shoot. And it was already fully financed and was being produced by Covert Media. Now, we didn't get a plot synopsis, nothing more than just, with their comedic take on the franchise's most beloved characters, both old school and new, Star Worlds will leave no convention, cliché, or iconic moment untouched. But even with no plot synopsis stated, it's pretty clear it was already well underway. But it just didn't happen for some reason. And since its announcement, we've heard nothing about the duo's work. I don't even think we've heard an update on the duo in general. Honestly, are they okay? Did something happen to them? Like, I know we don't like their spoof movies and they're not very funny, but, like, I'm kind of worried for them at this point. But, in all seriousness, again, we don't have any leaked scripts or material to work off of. Just these few articles. And, with that, we've not only completed the story of Seltzer and Friedberg's Unmade movies, but, at least for now, their story as a whole. By the end of doing research for this video, I was left confused. I was mainly just planning for this video to be a good ribbing of two directors/writers who are considered some of the biggest hacks in all of Hollywood. But, honestly, I'm not sure if I feel that way anymore. Like, make no mistake, their films are awful, complete garbage. But, while the hacks label may have been an accurate way to describe the duo in their later years, that just wasn't always the case. The two gave up their majors to create movies, even working as struggling artists for a long while. Not only that, but despite their parody output being seen as complete garbage, I've heard nothing bad said about any of their non-spoof scripts. According to my sources, they apparently wrote some pretty damn good action scripts. Especially if their unmade Jackie Chan action film got them a job rewriting a Van Damme flick. And of course, their Liberace script was apparently so good that it had some big names in the movie industry on board the project, with many defending it to high heaven. Ironically, it seems the only weakness the two had was with their comedy writing, which, to be honest, almost seems like a cruel cosmic joke. All their great action and drama flicks were canned while their awful spoof flicks kept getting made. But it's not like they put no effort into writing them. Again, they wrote shit as struggling artists out of a love for film. And they grew up with a ton of spoof flicks. Of course they love the genre. Despite allegations of potentially outsourcing jokes, their producer says otherwise, stating the two instead just bounce jokes off one another, like two best friends at a college dorm. They even made attempts to make certain jokes topical, not writing those types of jokes until days leading up to the shooting, with some of them even being devised on set. They even considered cutting jokes they thought might be outdated by that point, such as the Britney Spears gag seen in Meet the Spartans. But it played well enough with test audiences to actually keep it in the movie. Yeah, while the two didn't listen to critics very much, they did do a ton of test screenings for their films to see what clicked and what didn't. They even tried to make the stories feel coherent along with a barrage of jokes. trying to make each film seem big despite the increasingly low budget. And apparently it was so fun working on some of their films that they actually got a consistent group of people working on them. Oscar-nominated production designer William Elliott had been with the duo since Date Movie, creating some incredible sets for each of their films. It also got Tony Cox, Jennifer Coolidge, and Fred Willard constantly appearing in these films as different characters. And apparently, Carmen Electra only got paid on scale because she's on their set. She wants to work, and she works really hard at it. Carmen Electra actually seemed to really like the duo and had fun working with them. She wasn't really above making fun of herself. So yeah, they clearly did put a lot of effort into making these movies. But you can also tell why their spoof scripts just didn't end up very good. They did not attend film school, and that definitely shows in their directing. I'm not saying you need film school to be a good director, but yeesh. Their films really don't have much of a style to them, and are riddled with continuity errors. Despite trying to write topical jokes, they just didn't account for the fact that the films wouldn't be released until literal months after the fact. And finally, I think the biggest issue with the duo was their actual reasoning behind the spoofs. The parodies and satires of Mel Brooks, and, for a more recent example, Edgar Wright, despite satirizing the films and genres they spoof, are in truth a love letter to the works that they parody. You can tell the people behind them love the original films, and truly just want to playfully celebrate, while also poking fun, at the original films with their spoofs. They're made out of love. The duo's work, however, seemed to come more from a place of contempt. Even putting aside how they apparently didn't watch certain recent films, and only watched the trailers before putting them in their spoofs, their films are extremely mean-spirited. I don't feel any love for Narnia watching Epic Movie. I don't feel any love for 300 watching Meet the Spartans. I don't feel any love for Twilight and Vampires Suck. They take aim at the current biggest genre of film fad and constantly belittle or mock it. This, in my opinion, is the biggest issue with the duo's spoof films, and is an unfortunate constant with all of their films from the 2000s onwards. I consider this even a bigger issue than their weird way of writing comedy, and how they try to ignore certain joke rules. If your spoof is made with contempt and not love, then it just isn't going to feel genuine. No, I do not think the duo wanted to kill spoof movies. They loved spoof movies, they grew up with them. They just weren't able to produce high-quality spoofs, which isn't shocking considering their lack of film school training and their misguided writing style. And due to this, they unfortunately became the epitome of everything wrong with parody at the time. It is insane how much people hated these guys when they were active. If researching this video has taught me anything, it's that despite being the people who killed the spoof movie, it didn't have to be that way. When they put in the time and effort, they made some great scripts. They could write action, drama, and all that jazz extremely well. And it's a shame that almost none of their best work got made. And it's doubly a shame that none of it has resurfaced either. Maybe one of these days we'll see the scripts of The Bridge, Eye of the Storm, or Liberace leak online. And if the scripts are indeed as good as people said they were, it might give us a different, and possibly more positive perspective on the duo that killed the spoof movie. And with that, I've been Groovy Jake, and thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe and hit that bell icon. And until next time, stay groovy.
That is all